Here's a tutorial on how to make these cloth Children's Day carp kite tutorial. This is what you need. And we're going to start off with the muslin. It's folded in half, and then we're going to place the first color, so in this case is blue, on both sides. And then we're going to either zigzag stitch around or just stitch. If it's jersey, you can just stitch along the edges, or if it's felt. So you can pin in, stitch along both edges. If it's fraying material like a woven, definitely zigzag stitch. So then this is just the overview. We're going to put on the gills, which is the other color. In this case, a reddish pink. Zigzag stitch around that because that's actually woven, so it'll start fraying. And then put on the head of the carp. Once I figure out which way it's supposed to go. There we go. Yeah. Stitch around the edge there. Same thing for the other side. And then put the eye in, which is going to be the other color. Zigzag stitch around that one. If you're not using woven, you can just do regular stitch. And then also stitch the black eye, the iris. I didn't have black, so I got a dark purple in case you are paying attention. So we're going to do it in that, it's sort of in that order when we sew it. And then you're going to zigzag stitch or finish the ends at the back. Fold it in half, stitch on the top, and then I did the opposite when I actually do it, sorry. Oh, there's my head. Fold over so you have somewhere to put the wire in. That keeps the mouth nice and big, and has something for the string to attach it to, and you fly it up in the sky. This is a traditional Japanese this is a more modern version, the traditional Japanese thing that we use with a wire. I just use wire from vegetables. I don't recommend it because it's actually kind of sharp. But if you have pipe cleaner, that's excellent. Yep, and makes it nice big fat. So we're going to actually start here. We're just going to straight stitch because this blue is not woven. It's cotton jersey, so it will have less chance of fraying. And you want to leave the needle down and then pivot around at the points and the corners. So do this for both sides. You know, watch me do this the whole time. I have this on fast forward too, because I don't sew this fast. And this is my old machine because my other sewing machine went kaput. I need to take it in to get serviced. So remove the pins as you go. The pins is just to keep the fabric in place so it doesn't get too off from where it should be. That edge that's raw, that's going to be actually the top of the carp. And then we're going to forward and backwards stitch to lock the thread in place. And then trim. So you would do the other side, but we're going to pretend that didn't happen. So we're going to do the iris onto the eye already on the head. There's no need to do multiple stitches. Just do it all at once. I was doing a little bit of juging for the length if you were wondering what I was doing. So all the way around in a circle, forward and backward stitch to lock it in place. I'm going to trim it, and then we're going to, in this case, you're going to see me zigzag on the eye around the edge. The zigzag, of course, is because that pink is actually a woven, so it'll start fraying. I had a really good tutorial video that I filmed of filming stitching in the scales. Somehow, for both sides, for both of them, it didn't record at all. So now we're going to put the gills in, because we're going to put the gills in first before we put the head on, so that the head has something to lay over. I hit my keyboard, sorry. This is a little bit more unwieldy, because this is the large version, by the way, so it can get in the way. The same idea, you want to pivot the circle around under the foot. And if you're zigzagging, just catch the edge. so that you overcast the edge so it doesn't come undone. If not, just go ahead and do it about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch, and that'll do. So then we can put the head on. So the curvy end goes to the body, and the flat surface goes up to the top of the or the raw edge. And we're just gonna stitch along the edge. Try to keep as flat as possible. It's actually very hard to film when you've got a camera right in your way, by the way. And go around. Sorry, if you hear a noise, that's my chair, I promise. Oh, my hand's in the way. So again, we leave the needle down and pivot. If you're wondering why my needle's all the way to the left, it's just, this is a vintage machine and that's its normal default setting for that particular foot. I just didn't want to change out to a straight sewing foot and then have to change back when I have to zigzag. Sorry, my camera keeps readjusting. I'm still getting used to it. Okay, so now that we've zigzagged everything, we're going to fold over the mouth so that we have a casing to run the wire or the pipe cleaner through. So you just fold it over twice and stitch. It's about 1/2 inch, and then stitch from end to end at about 1/4 inch from the fold. So I'm zigzag stitching over the fin because I don't want to finish that, mostly because that's kind of a complicated shape. This is just a kite. It's not like I need it to be super fancy. If you have material to make the body of the fish that's not going to fray, you can just go ahead and leave it. You don't have to do anything. Okay, so if we're going to do the small version, which I did in red or reddish pink, it's the same idea. You do the eye, the iris onto the eye, but in this case, it's the opposite of what needs to get zigzag, because the blue is stretch fabric and it won't start fraying, so I'm just doing a straight stitch. And then once I attach the red onto the body, that needs to get zigzagged. So if I'm attaching the red onto the body, so in this case the fin, or the body of the carp, I'm zigzagging and then letting the needle go down and lifting up the presser foot and rotating it. In this case I cut this a little close. I probably should have just made it one piece. So the pins are there just to keep it in place, so you can remove them afterwards. So again, you want to catch the edge on the zigzag, so it's just wide enough to catch the edge. Please don't ask me the settings because it's a vintage machine, so I'm not sure what width I had. It was just whatever. It's got a little knob, you just move over to left and right, so I really can't tell the width. Okay, so you do the other side. It should go to follow that for the blue one, or the large carp, whichever color you may choose. It's also the other side needs to be done because it's two sides to the carp. You just follow the curve all the way around. It's almost like quilting. I am not a quilter, by the way, so if I'm doing this incorrect or wrong, I'm sorry. You can choose, of course, choose to do an applique type of stitch or a satin type stitch, but it's a lot of extra fabric. So now we're going to apply the gills for the other color. So this is the blue with the red carp. Traditionally, you have one carp per child. Ultra traditionally, it's per boy, but Japan since expanded to include all children. And it's different colors for each child. So usually start off with blue and then red, and I think the neighbors across the street have yellow and green. You also can have carp for the husband and wife or the two parents. It's just up to you, but typically it's at least one carp for each child in the family. My parents fly the carp too, and I don't know why, because we're not kids anymore. But I think they're excited about the grandkids. So then we put the head on, and remember the curvy sides to the body. The flat sides up to the top that's going to get sewn on. I had to remind myself. It should look funky until you put it on right because you can't see the gills. So we're going to zigzag stitch over this. It's just the fabric type that requires a zigzag. And if I could just stop getting my fabric in the shot, everybody can see what's going on. And lead the needle in and then lift up the foot and go all the way around. And then forward and backwards, zigzag stitch to lock it in place. And trim. And do the other side. All right, so now we're laying this flat. I probably should have done this before, but this is how you transfer the markings to make the zigzag stitch for tracing out or doing the embroidery. I use the zigzag stitch because it's nice and chunky and with white thread, mostly because that's what I was using and I'm lazy. So we're going to just do everywhere that I'm tracing right now for both sides. If you're using the projector, I already flipped it over. I just didn't do it for this version, so you should just be able to lay it down and trace. That was my elbow, I promise. All the way around, and then just zigzag all over this. This is the part that I didn't get. It was fantastic. It was beautiful. Trust me. I did not get it, and I can't redo it without redoing the whole thing. So do the same thing for the red. We're just putting in the scales. There's a little, if you buy a commercial made carp, there's a little bit more decoration on it, but since we're homemaking this, simplicity is great. You can sashiko this if you like, actually. So you can see where the stitching was. And we turn, after we stitched up the top, and we turn it inside out. And then put the wire through. But you can definitely see all the zigzag stitching that I used. There's a lot of zhuzhing here, trying to get the wire all the way through without breaking the wire. So that's what it looks like with the mouth open. Then we're going to attach some string to either side. I just sewed it on with some thick sashiko thread. And once you're done with that, you can go find a stick that has a hole on one end, or that you can tack on cord, and then tie it to the end. I'm not sure why I filmed this part, because I think you guys know how to actually tie knots. Pretty sure most people can tie knots. I'm sorry if you can't. I'm not making fun of you. So I'm tying both of the carp. You can see how they're wide mouth. The wind's going to catch it really nicely when there is wind. When I was filming the video, there was no wind. All the movement is entirely from my 4-year-old that kept waving it about. So that was a tutorial. I hope you have time to make it and enjoy making carp for your kids. It's a traditional Japanese thing to celebrate Boys' Day. They also get treats. So Boys' Day, I'm sorry, Children's Day. I keep forgetting. I grew up, it was called Boys' Day. But they also get treats, a little bit of tea party. They get to play with some toys, and it's a lot of fun. So give it a try. Thanks.